Welcome to the first episode of TBD TTRPG podcast. We're here to discuss tabletop role playing games, the good, the bad, the easy to get, the hard to run. My name is Brian the Bard, and I am here with Sir Q.
Hey, we're here to do two things. Chew bubblegum, prepare you for epic tabletop game, and we're all out of bubblegum. Our podcast here is here to help you with your adventures from both sides of the table, players and dungeon masters.
This week we're looking at what system to run, how to pick them, and what are some good ones.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is the group that you're playing with. I think that has a major impact on what the table plays.
There's a sort of social contract with your group, and every group is different. Maybe some groups prefer a horror, like a serious horror campaign. They want to do Curse of Strahd with lightning and gothic atmosphere. Others turn to Monty Python, and the games turn a bit goofy and funny. As long as your party's having fun, that's all that matters. But getting your party on the same page, that's what's important.
I think that's something that, a session zero can help with. It could help establish some of that social contract where people agree to things to have it in or out.
Oh, absolutely. A session zero with a new group is mandatory, in my opinion. You want to get everyone on the same page, on the same discussions, on the hard limits and the soft limits on how to run the game. And after a while, if you have an established group, session zero is just character development and expectations. There's going to be a point where you may not even need a session zero. That if you're good with your group, you all understand, you all have the social contract, then your games can run fine without one.
Yeah, definitely. On one of my recent campaigns, even though our group's been playing for a long time, I did a survey to the group just to get some ideas of things that we wanted to avoid in a more hardcore horror game, just to make sure that we were on the same page. It's good to have a check-in every now and again because things can change over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thankfully, our group is pretty understandable. We have a general concessions on what to play and how to play each other's style. And that just makes things easy.
Luckily, our group is, very story oriented. I think different groups have different things, whether it's role play versus action slash.
Well, that's important. Sometimes you want out of a game is the deep lore and the conversations between players and interesting character development. Other times, you just want a barbarian to kill a thing really, really hard with the big axe. Each games are different, and that's something we want to discuss about it. In my opinion, every tabletop RPG needs two basic things: a role and conflict resolution. The conflict resolution could be anything. It could be dice, it could be cards. I read before that in prison they use spinning cups and cutouts. It could be a lot of things. You just need to have a consensus of what the conflict resolution is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of how long the game goes on for, whether it's, just a one and done or it's more long term like campaign.
And it could be in between. Our group have run really long campaigns. In fact, we're in one right now. We've done one shots that are just goofy off the cuff things, and we've done in between about 3 to 4 up to about 6 is what I would say a medium campaign.
Yeah, I think for us, the thing we like to focus on is the theme or feeling that we want to capture in that game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's the importance of finding the right setting and the right system for the game you're going to play. Dungeons and Dragons may not be the feel you want. It's not very good at portraying horror or mystery. It's very easy to solve a mystery. We can just use Speak Undead and figure out who killed them. Same thing with horror. It's hard to do horror in Dungeons and Dragons because you have a fighting chance. You have the power of gods on your side. There's a couple of classes that could just legit blow up undead and damage them. It's hard. So you want to find the right system, and you want to balance between complexity and difficulty with enjoyment and fun.
Yeah, there's quite a number of different systems out there. You want to go over some of them?
Oh, I mean, the one that's up to bat always is Dungeons and Dragons. That is the father of all role-playing games. Gary Gygax made that in the 70s, and it's gone through evolutions, but it's a pretty solid system. And the older systems are still out there. So if you still like 3.5, play 3.5. I was a huge fan of that back in the day. I played the D20 modern game, the Star Wars game, had the same exact system of Dungeons and Dragons. It was 3.5 with Star Wars, or 3.5 with Nowadays, 5th edition is the name of the game. Not only does Dungeons& and Dragons have plenty of 5th edition modules to run from, but there's things like Everyday Heroes, which is the modern equivalent to that.
Yeah? What's that like?
I haven't fully played it yet. It does look like everything's based off your attributes: strength, dex, con, wisdom, charisma, intelligence, which is what the original one was similar. And they're sub like 5th edition. I'm prepared to run it. There's other games up to bat. It looks like an interesting play.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. One that's recently captured my interest is Obajima. Tales from the Tall Grass is currently on Kickstarter. It's like a Ghibli inspired 5e setting, magic
Interesting.
spirits and lots of nature. They even have like a potion crafting system in there as well. But the main thing I want to capture when I eventually run that is, of course, the mystic nature of a Ghibli film. Just kind of like really capture that.
I mean, that's a hard lightning in a bottle there, because Studio Ghibli's films are some of the greatest storytelling there is. Spirited Away would be a really interesting environment to play.
Yeah, I won't be looking to recreate it exactly. It'll just be a tribute. How would you say that D&D has changed over time in terms of the
Well,
system?
I've played it since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the second edition. I played first edition before. It seems more streamlined. I've noticed that we avoid talking about fourth edition. I did run that for a long time, but I still don't enjoy it. Fifth edition is fast. You can make characters quickly. It's integrated with online play, which is important these days, and it makes it easier. Is it perfect? By all means, no. But no game is, and it serves our purpose when we play it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's always the alternative to Dungeons and Dragons, which is Pathfinder by Piezo. Uh,
In my
First,
college, it was very popular, and I
yeah,
ran a first edition Pathfinder for quite a while. Definitely enjoyed that. They had a really good setting and a lot, which can also be a drawback because there's a lot of different things you can fiddle with and tune.
oh,
But
absolutely. I mean, it's from my understanding, second edition is just an a la carte thing. You could play a game with all rogues, and everyone has a different feel, a different play style, just because you pick different feats and stuff.
they've come out with the second edition. Haven't had a chance to play it, but looked through it. Looks like they streamline things more. So it's similar to fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons. But I think old school Renaissance has kind of going back to the roots of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. There's quite a few different systems out there.
Oh, definitely. I ran a game of Dungeon Crawler Classics, and it was hilarious. It's a very interesting game. You can make a level 0 character, you make 4 of them, and you just throw them into the grinder. What's funny was, at a point, everyone decided, hey, we might have enough gold to go back to our town and fight the big old monster. Like, there's a point where everyone's like, yeah, we can dip out right now. We're good.
Yeah, Dungeon Classics, definitely a really cool system. One of the things that made it unique, I think, was the chain system, which we'll discuss later. It comes from Goodman Games. They also have this other system that's on Kickstarter that I've backed. It's called X, which takes that Dungeon Crawler Classic feel and then makes it into like a publicized sport. So there's a whole like fame system that goes along with that. I look forward to run that sometime in the future.
Oh, that's definitely a Smash TV kind of thing, where it's just watching people run through a dungeon, hack and slash away. That sounds like a great game.
One of my favorite book series, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. He's got that similar concept going in his series. Very good, hilarious book. But as far as OSR is concerned, there's some other ones out there that are fairly well known. There's Old School Essentials from Necrotic Gnome. They really have boiled down the old school Renaissance for playability.
So when we talk about old school Renaissance, what we're talking about is the older games, the older Dungeons and Dragons games were more difficult. While in 5th edition, harnessing the power of God is attainable around 10th level, is when you start to being really a force to be reckoned with. In these older games, 10th level, and you could still get destroyed by a troll. They're meant to be a little meatier, a little more difficult. You get hit more, you have less hit points, it seems. Your magic doesn't seem as strong as 5th edition.
Well, one of the key points was that gold granted you experience points. So it required more player ingenuity. It's not more difficult in terms of playability. It just requires a different mindset than what's required from most modern systems. And it's actually getting quite a following.
I remember I read a thing that Gary Gygax wrote about murder hobos and how the old chainmail system, which became Dungeons and Dragons, was based on people sticking around a small town and growing the town. You spend your gold in town. You bring all your loot back into town so the town grows. Nowadays, that's unreasonable. Most of the time, you're just people living in tents hacking through a jungle for a goal.
Yeah.
Now, one system that I say fell in love with was the Fallout system by Morpheus. Great
Uh-huh.
system. We played a game in there, and I still need to get the hang of it. Movement seems a little odd to me. I would play it again in a heartbeat. Fallout is a setting that's near and dear. I did like the setting, how it's encouragement for guns. It seemed very gun friendly.
So post-apocalyptic feel, if that's what you're aiming for, that just seems to be a good system to use. Yes.
I mean, Fallout is a very easy system to translate and for people to understand. It's post-apocalyptic, nuclear tech, everything's crap. Let's go have an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely had fun with the one that you ran, playing a synth character that penchant for getting in trouble.
And nobody really knew he was a synth until the very end. That was a good twist.
Mhm.
Now, the next system is one of our favorites. I've played it. I've ran it. I've played it. I love it. It's powered by the apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely played quite a few from Powered by the Apocalypse systems. What makes it unique in terms of our system?
Well, for me, I like to frame my games like a movie or TV show, and Monster of the Week is built to be like a TV show since you're emulating TV show. It takes the Power of the Apocalypse core rules, which is easy, quick character creation. You pick your theme, you a la carte it, you pick which ones, boom, you have a character. The system is 2d6. You're going to add up to 3 numbers, maybe 4. And what you could do, what you get is written on your character sheet. Very cut and dry right there. Monster of the Week allows you to play X-Files, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural. All those shows you definitely have seen at least once.
You're talking
So,
about Monster of the Week within Powered by the Apocalypse, right?
yes,
Can fall back on.
Apocalypse is a very open system, and there's a lot of themes that changed the original Apocalypse World game.
Very character sheet focused where you just have your one card that has pretty much all the information about your character. It's a very small character sheet, but it's very informative. It makes it easier to run, especially on very short notice, which we do.
I've ran some ridiculous one shots. I remember one that everyone was super into, which was Pig Smoke, which was the Harry Potter knockoff where everyone was teachers. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was really fun. I played someone who didn't have magic and worked as a divination teacher.
You didn't have
Then we had
magic, you had interns.
Yeah, just as useful. Then we had a dollar store Snape.
He was good. He was great at that. But that's why I like Powered by the Apocalypse games. They're so open. They're so easy to run. If you want to do a Dungeons and Dragons one, there's Dungeon World. If you want to do a magical girl transformation one where you're Sailor Moon, that exists. Teens with
Glitter
attitude.
Hearts.
Yes, Glitter Hearts. Teens with you can play Power Rangers, Animorphs, Captain Planet, those themes, and it's so much fun.
Like the original one, Apocalypse World, it focused around, of course, the apocalypse. They also had a system that it was a lot more horny than I had intended when I ran it, but it's part of the system. It's important to have a good conversation about the kind of limits that happen in your game. And that was something that was a part of that system, but they made sure that people were aware that this was something that would be there. And of course, it's been expanded with Apocalypse Keys to the more like a gold theme, like Hellboy.
Oh yeah. It's a great system if you want to run something quick. Great for cons, great for all right, we don't have anything. Let's try this. Highly recommend it.
One of the ones that we did was Slasher Flick, where you're playing a horror, where you have both your main characters and side characters. Side characters that are made to be killed off, and the more you have them do really stupid things, get you genre points they can then use later to help your main character to survive, or at least to survive longer than the others.
What I like about Slasher Flick is it encourages tropes from horror movies. It's built into the system that to do dumb things, to go partying instead of watching the kids, to go drink beer, to have sex, to just generally be jerk teenagers from the 90s or 80s. And you can use that, those genre points to fight the monster. And there's even a point where you can't even damage the monster. The rules say the monster can be damaged once X amount of people have been killed off. That game was good. It was one of my highlights I've ran. And if I recall, you just kept throwing people as meat shields in front of you. It was just this jerk yuppie kid, and he just kept throwing people at him. They kept dying horribly.
Worked out so well.
And that's what the whole point of this is, to highlight more obscure and unknown games as Dungeons and Dragons has become more popular.
Dungeons and Dragons has definitely dominated the scene, but I think with the internet, it's helped create awareness around other systems. Like Kids on Bikes is one that they have different variations on their system, but the main thing is you have levels of success when you're attempting something. You combine an attribute and skill in order to get what you need to roll. And they got variations like Kids on Brooms, Teens in Space, Dads on Lawnmowers.
I've played Call of Cthulhu, which has a very similar play style, but you just cats. There's cats screwing with Cthulhu.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. We were playing as cats. Mine was two footologists, basically a human specialist.
All of you teamed up to drive a car into a mind-controlling hypnotoad.
Yeah. Once again, it's just another system that's fairly easy to run. You get a little bit of humor and a little bit of horror, and it just brings like a homeward bound kind of feel to it. Speaking of cats, you can also talk about mice. Two Little Mice. They are an Italian group who put out several systems where you combine an attribute and skill that says how many dice you're able to roll. And then based on however many matches you can of the die faces. So if you have like 3 ones, it determines the level of success you have. And if you get like 6 total matches, then you have what's called jackpot, and you basically take control of a scene. The two main systems they have out right now or about to have out is Household, where you play as like borrowers, like little tiny people, fairies.
Absolutely. Yep.
Or Outgunned, where you're playing as like an action hero of the 90s. So you're really going after the John Wick, Matrix, everything everywhere all at once. You can have that all there inside Outgunned.
Now, from my understanding, the system is similar, but it's the setting I know more about, which is Tales from the Loop. Super bonkers setting. It was about like a small town that has somehow the past and future technology. So you're looking at 80s style robots. I highly recommend the show. But that's a game I have my eye on, and one of these days I do want to run.
Yeah, that one does sound really interesting. I like the concept art for it.
The concept art is beautiful. I would buy it just for the concept art. What a poster of one of those.
So you also like a D30 system. Can you explain a little bit about that? The dice.
That's the up dice where to difficulty increase the dice chain. I'm not too familiar with it. Like we said, we ran the Dungeon Crawler Classic once, and we're going to try it again fairly soon. I think we're going to do another one, correct?
Eventually, for sure. I definitely want to play another Dungeon Crawler class. So you go from like the D3 to the D, and you go up or down in die faces, depending on the difficulty of it or how skilled you are in that.
I mean, the higher dice, the higher chances of success, with also the higher chances of failure.
The D100 system, that's pretty popular out there.
That's probably my third most ran systems. It's got to be Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green. Call of Cthulhu is a great, if you want horror, if you want mystery, if you want dark and brooding, Call of Cthulhu is the perfect game for that. The insanity mechanics are great. Now, I would actually recommend Delta Green a little bit more. Very similar system. You roll a percentile, which is 2d10s, and you try to roll below your skill. That's it. That's all the dice there is in the entire game. It is a very skill heavy, and the insanity thing, this is what is different between Delta Green and Call of Cthulhu, is in Delta Green you have bonds where you can push your insanity and ruin your family, your friends, your job at the expense of saving the day from Cthulhu or a monster or whatever that needs to be done. We've ran it a couple times. Our games tend to be funny, but there are some dark moments and some serious moments where everyone stopped and went, oh crap. One of my favorites is that a character died. A horrible, ridiculous death while going insane in the middle of the road. My highlight of gaming. It was probably my favorite scene I've ever done in any game.
Yeah, you like drive the guy out of his car, right?
Well, he had explosive temperament as his insanity, and he got in a road rage incident, and then the guy up, took a step back, and a car ran him over and killed him.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. It was fun.
It was the perfect ending for him. He needed to go out like that. I like that. It was a great example of finding the system for the style because Call of Cthulhu can do things that Dungeons and Dragons can't at all.
Right, because it's not designed for it. So you have like Mothership, which is designed for sci-fi horror, which is also a D100 system. Or Survive This has a subsystem called Dark Places and Demogorgons. I mean, it's Stranger Things on paper, which some people may find attraction to.
And if we're gonna run Mothership, that's just aliens. Come on. We're just gonna do aliens. There's no way, right? You give me an insanity system in space. All right, we're gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to run Mothership sometime in the future. I mean, the closest we have come to that was when we did the Kids on Bike version where it was the Magic School Bus, but Insanity Cthulhu ensued.
Now, again, with themes matching the system, Fate is a system I've ran many times, and it's a very open system. You can, in theory, match it with a lot of things. Now, the most popular and well-known IP in Fate is Dresden Files, based off the book series. And the system's great. Fate works on a more of a narrative approach. A lot of it is 4d6s that are special d6s. They have plus, minus, and zeros. And if you can narratively explain why you can use your power in that scene, then you can get away with it.
Yeah, Fate feels more influenceable in terms of rules.
Yes. And Dresden Files isn't the only one. One of the settings I've always wanted to do was Spirit of the Century, which is like 18th century superhero. And there's tons of Fate now. Fate's fairly open.
I think another honorable mention is Forgotten Ballad. It's a D6 system, a single D6, not multiple D6, just a single D6 system that plays like Zelda.
Hmm.
Little system I found that is pretty entertaining to me. I mostly like the layout that they have. It was expanded from original like short article into an actual like book. I think overall when choosing a system, it really is about the feeling that you're trying to get. Some of the subsystems that are out there that help support your system, like Insanity or using flashbacks as a key component for the game can be important,
Yeah.
especially for like heist games.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Insanity isn't just for Delta Green. There is a D&D Insanity system you can get. It's not something I'm interested in because it's not our current game. We're doing a war-based game. And I tend to aim for a more cinematic feel, but always
Mhm.
try to find an appropriate way to insert the subsystems. Again, this is your social contract with your group. You don't want to insert a system that doesn't flow well with the rest of it. And that the bottom line is every player and DM should have an investment in their systems. Take your time and do your research. There are several tools, tricks, and ways around it these days. Back in my day, if I want to be like the old man yelling out a cloud type thing, we tried everything. We drew maps on line paper. We've used chessboards with chess pieces as the tokens and the characters. One time ran a game using Lego pieces because that was what I had on hand.
And that would be pretty sweet.
No, it wasn't. It was very messy. It wasn't very. But nowadays you have systems like Roll20 and D&D Beyond that really helps things along. Roll20 allows me to find maps, put them on there, get them ready. I can find tokens. I can get pictures. I have a lot more freedom on online gaming than I used to. I'll admit that.
We currently run ours the Roll20. So I am keeping an eye out for other programs in terms of being able to create something quickly and being able to run the game.
What I try to look for is what's the best games I can sell to our group. Now, our group is willing to play a lot of things, but there's a limit. So I have to try to find something that's easy, that's quick for us to learn, especially if it's a game I've never played before. Try to watch YouTube videos. There's got to be someone who explained the game on YouTube. There's everything on YouTube these days.
I think key takeaways really depends on the table, what they're willing to play, what they're willing to tolerate, thematic choice in terms of genre and feeling, and then, of course, how much you're willing to invest into it or able
But the
to.
bottom line is Dungeons and Dragons and all tabletop role playing games are just that, they're games. And maybe not everyone wants to play high fantasy. That's perfectly valid. There's only so much Game of Thrones you can watch before you want to watch something else. Now, that's something to explore and understand. Maybe you want to play as mice and recreate Secrets of Nim, or you just watch Watership Down and you want to try to find a one where you play as bunnies. It exists. It's called Burrows and Bunnies, I think. I have to look that up. Maybe you want to do a thriller where there's a killer in the house. Maybe. I mean, the whole thing is it's a game. Have fun. Find out what
Yeah,
your players want and they get for the best fun games you can go for.
fun is important. Now, I think we're going to wrap this episode up. We look forward to having you join us next time where we'll be talking about dungeon mastering on a budget. And
Yes.
we look forward to seeing you then. TBD, TTRPG podcast. Join us next time.